We begin Book 8 of Paradise Lost with a continuation of the conversation that took place between Adam and Raphael. Raphael finishes his story to Adam, and in doing so, this sparks a great amount of curiosity in Adam. And Adam continues this curiosity by asking questions of the Earth's formation, its existence, why the solar system is the way that it is. And these are very much so in-depth questions that Adam has. And basically, the conversation between Adam and Raphael is a greater intellectual conversation that is taking place in the culture of Milton at that time. When they are continuing this conversation, Raphael warns Adam that he needs to make sure that his concentration remains upon God above and then Eve, and not to get them basically out of that order, because Eve could prove to be a weakness to Adam, and that Adam's prime wisdom is to learn of the ordinary things in one's daily life. So basically, the more that he learns of the surroundings around him, the more that he will gain knowledge through just everyday occurrences. And then when Adam and Raphael continue in this conversation, Eve decides that it is time for her to leave because she would rather have Adam explain these more in-depth things to her. And this is basically showing the flip side to the coin of the way that normal everyday life took place. Because, keep in mind, this was written in the 1600s, the 17th century, and men were basically the readers and the intellectuals. So women did not partake of such high academic conversations. So for Eve to leave is basically a reflection of what is going on and existing in the normal contemporary times of when Milton is writing. And this is also an example that underscores that a level of gender roles that we've discussed in the previous books. Continuing on, Adam describes his experience of existence to Raphael, because Raphael has given him what has basically gone on with the creation aspect, and then Adam is describing to him his own creation and how God explained to Adam what the tree of knowledge is, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and then the tree of life, and how they are not to eat of these trees in the garden, and doing so would result in their death because it would be a disobedience to God's commandments. Adam continues by saying that he, in living in the garden, he was very fulfilled, but he was longing for a partner, someone to share his life with. And he questioned God, and God did not rebuke him for doing so, but did give him Eve. And Eve then could prove to be a weakness, because when God gave him to her, and Milton goes on to explain this, that Adam was very much so enchanted by her. And this could be a way that Milton views women, or men viewed women at that time, that they were more of an enchantment, not an intellectual equal, but their ways and being and of existence could be a downfall to man, and therefore it is thought by critics that Milton incorporated this mindset into his writing. And that is somewhat evident because Raphael warns him to make sure that he keeps his priorities in check, because in doing so he could be led off the straight and narrow path, and disobedience could result in his death. More 17th century thinking results in, with this book, a full-scale discourse of astronomy, and this is seen through Raphael's explanation of the heavens to Adam. The great debate at the time was the viewpoint by Copernicus that the sun is the center of the universe, or the Ptolemaic mindset that the earth is the center. And it was just coming on the scene within the previous 100 years that the sun is now the center of the universe. And so by Milton incorporating this into his life, he was basically reflecting what was going on in everyday conversation. In this book, there is an argument for and against the Ptolemaic system, and that is evidenced through Raphael's speech. Again, Raphael warns Adam not to think upon things that are too high. And the things that he is referring to are the ways that the heavens function. He says, reasoning, I oft admire how nature, wise and frugal, could commit such disproportions. And this is Adam speaking, because he does not understand the ways that the planets and the stars move. With superfluous hands, so many nobler bodies to create, greater so manifold to this one use, to officiate light. So he wants to know why things are the way they are. Why do we have light? Why do we have planets that function in such a way? And Raphael warns him, this is not your basic concern. You need to concern yourself with everyday life, everyday functionality. And then Raphael also warns Adam not to place Eve above God, that what she wills to do or say seems wisest, virtuous, discreetest, best. All higher knowledge in her presence falls degraded. So basically everything above her seems meaningless. Wisdom and discourse with her loses discountenance, and like folly shows. So Adam is saying, I basically lose all of my wits when I'm around her. Everything I know to be true becomes meaningless and pointless when I'm around her. And some of the other major themes that we will continue to view through not just this book, but past and future books that we will read, is that theme of free will. It is important that Adam and Eve obey God. It is important that when they question God, it is done so in respect. And we see that that was okay for Adam to do, because he did question God when he asked for another partner. And then accepting God's will and accepting God's judgment, basically, and his judiciousness of being all-knowing, that is very important to accept. And then one thing that we are now going to take and watch for the remainder of the poem is this theme of passion and judgment. Do passions arise and are so strong that they cloud one's judgment? And that is basically a foreshadowing of what we are going to see take place in the garden with Adam and Eve. We've already seen that the passion overtakes judgment and results in failure with Satan, because his passion to be greater than God clouded his judgment and thus resulted in his fall.